Hey everyone, it's KW Miller. It's been a long 3 or 4 days, and I was up late last night on phone calls, both internationally here and domestically in the U.S. And typically we'll do this video off my congressional page, but we were having a linkage problem, so I'm doing it off my personal Facebook page. We'll copy it over to the congressional page. I wanted to try to explain to everyone what's really happening. And, I think people are confused. And I'm going to try to keep this simple because it's very complicated. Number one, this is not about race. This is not about a police officer doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. Of course, that is what happened. But the burning and looting and desecration of our cities is just one small piece of what's actually happening in this country. What's really happening is there is a concentrated movement to essentially turn the United States into a welfare state by bringing the country to its knees, both domestically and internationally. And as many of you may know, I spent majority of my career internationally. So I deal with essentially the global leaders, the global financiers, and the global business leaders as well, political and business. So what do we see happening in the US right now? We see chaos, orchestrated chaos. Why is that? And the average person on the street would say, oh, well, it's just the black community, or it's the young people who just want to go out and create a message. No, this is bought and paid for chaos. This is a well-orchestrated machine that was in waiting, and all they needed was a spark. They needed a crisis to capitalize on. And unfortunately, the police incident in Minneapolis was the incident they used to launch this anarchy that's ongoing in the country today. So what is it all about? What you're going to see, and I want you to come back to this video, what you're going to see is in another week or two, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the leftists come out with a $3 to $5 trillion welfare package, if not more. $3 to $5 trillion on top of everything that we've put out. So in addition to the coronavirus lockdown, in addition to crippling the country's economy, both domestically and internationally, we now are going to be faced with another demand for a welfare payment to put America on welfare. The leftist, the bad actors, and the international provocateurs are basically trying to create a welfare state in the United States, make the country a welfare state by raising our debt levels to the point where we're non-sustainable. We're dependent on other countries. We're dependent on basically debt. Our debt levels are already out of control. We can barely pay our bills as it is now. So how are we going to afford another $3 to $5 trillion of debt in this country when our economy is essentially shut down from the coronavirus? Now we're basically getting shut down from reopening by the planned and orchestrated chaos and anarchy. And by the way, not only are we going to be asked to approve $3 to $5 trillion of additional welfare and handouts by the leftists, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and that crowd, they're also going to tell us that we have to pay to rebuild all of the quote-unquote blue cities, which are akin to essentially where this chaos is occurring. New York City, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, Oregon, Washington, D.C., Baltimore. Do the math. We can't afford it. So what's the point? The point is there is a concentrated effort, well-concentrated effort, by a very, very sophisticated dark money regime to cripple the United States, literally create a welfare state. Now, myself and a very tight group of international and domestic business leaders saw this coming many months ago and formed and started to plan for this very event, which means we were essentially saw the writing on the wall. We didn't know the coronavirus was going to be the one thing that they would use to trigger the meltdown. We didn't know when they would launch the anarchy and the chaos, but we knew it was coming. Where does that leave us politically? Last night I delivered a message to the country, and the message was directly focused at President Trump, and he got the message. He understood exactly what I was saying because he knows I talk to international business leaders, and he immediately announced that he would be locking DC down. But you have to put yourself in the president's position. Whether you like President Trump or you don't, he's isolated. The military cabal, the military establishment wants him out because he won't wage war. The Justice Department and all of the civil service agencies want him out because they are basically lifers and he goes against them. And then you have the global bad actors who want him out because he basically is trying to undermine all of the deals that have essentially hurt the U.S. economy and hurt American workers over the last 20 or 30 years. China is certainly one. The Europeans want him out. Asia doesn't really care for Trump. The South Americans are less of a player. So you have to understand that this is a combined effort between international bad actors and domestic leftist bad actors to essentially cripple the U.S. economy, to cripple the American workforce. Where does that leave us? It leaves us in a very dark place. But we can correct this, and we will correct this. But I want everybody to understand what is really happening. What is really happening is this is a concentrated effort to cripple the U.S. This is not about justice for any one individual who was a victim of police brutality. As difficult and as terrible as that was, that is not what's happening here. This is about destroying the very fabric of our society. It's something that is so evil and is so beyond comprehension to most people that I even struggle to share this with you in the right forum because most people don't understand it or won't understand it. They'll look at it as civil unrest. My friends, this is not civil unrest. This is anarchy. Trust me, I grew up in the South. I grew up in a Southern boy, went off, got multiple degrees, and spent my career internationally. These are the people I work with, and I understand how they operate. And I've been fighting them for 30 years in my career. At the same time, our political regime has been infiltrated to the point where they've basically given the country away. And so you take somebody like a Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, this is not about whether you like the president. The office of the president is sacred. Whether there's a Democrat in there, a Republican, an independent, or whatever you want to call them, they're the president. The office of the president is the office of the president, and you have to respect it. We just happen to have a businessman who has big ideas in the office of the president, who's pushing back on the globalist, who's pushing back on all of the dirty deals that have been done the last 30 years, trying to unwind them to reinstate America's position both domestically and internationally. And the bad actors don't like it, and they're fighting back. They're fighting back aggressively. And what you're seeing on the streets of America right now is dark money, special interest, and the bad actors fight back and try to destroy this country. Essentially what they're trying to do is destroy the presidency and bring back somebody into the presidency who will basically do their bidding. We're only 2 or 3 Senate seats away from complete anarchy in this country. The leftists already control Congress. The Republican Party is massively infiltrated by leftist, liberal, and rhino elements, Republicans in name only. Essentially, they're Democrats who wear a Republican uniform. I'm running against one in the 18th District in Florida. People like me don't run for political office. That's not something I do. But the situation is so bad that a group of people of my caliber have decided that we had to go back in and take control of our political regime. through open and fair elections. It's the only way we're going to do it. I could do all the things I do internationally and pull all the triggers and do everything I can. But if I and people like me don't have a say in government, everything I do gets unwound. All the good deeds, all the protections that I put in to help America elsewhere. And that's where we are. It's a combined effort. So what we're seeing now is the first time in my career, both from the political left in the US and the political, dark money left in the international marketplace, they're combining forces to essentially take this country down and put it on its knees. Not destroy it, just basically cripple us economically, cripple us from a standpoint of debt. Essentially, they want to keep the population deaf, dumb, and blind. They're happy to bring in another 10 million Latinos. They're happy to keep the black population on welfare. They want to put them all on welfare. They'd like to put half the American population on welfare and have them under their thumb from a standpoint of a paycheck. Why do Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and their like want to come out with another $3 to $5 trillion? $3 to $5 trillion on top of all of the debt we have and hand it out? It's real simple. Put you under their thumb. They want to control you, the American population. If you're on the dole, you're on welfare, you're under their paycheck, they control the country. They basically do what they want. People like me, they're scared of. They will fight me tooth and nail. They will fight others like me tooth and nail to retain power. And so I'm just one man, but I happen to be a man with a lot of voice and a lot of relationships and a lot of contacts and a lot of pull. But that pull is only as good as the American population and American voters take it with others like me. So when you look at what's happening today, what I'm trying to tell you is this is not about the fact that a police officer violated somebody's civil rights. Yes, that happened. It happens a lot, and there are shootings every day. 5 police officers were murdered in Dallas by crazies. Not too many people are talking about that, are they? How about the families of those 5 police officers who were murdered, assassinated by somebody devious and ill-willed? Who's gonna make that up to them? You see, my friends, this happens across the country every day. It's sad, but I want you to keep in mind what's really happening here. We're fighting for the very fabric of our society. We're fighting to keep this country entrepreneurial, unencumbered, not captured by dark money, special interest, and foreign nations. And this is not a welfare state. The United States was not built a welfare model. This was built as a land of the free, home of the brave, we the people. Go out, build your business, do what you want, do it by the rule of law under the Constitution. There is a monumentally large, massive movement underway to essentially degrade the U.S. Constitution, degrade your rights, put you under the thumb of government, and basically put you on the government, quote-unquote, dole, as we say in Europe, or on welfare, as we say in the U.S. Now, a lot of people are happy to take the paycheck and just drink beer, watch TV, and go out and create trouble. That's not the majority of the population. The majority of Americans want to work. They want to build things. They want to leave legacies for their children and their grandchildren. I'm one of those people. So where are we now? Don't underestimate the president. I always tell my people, you have to beat the bushes to find the snakes. And when you're looking at President Trump, and you're asking, why isn't he locking this country down? Well, he's watching the snakes come out and slither in the streets. Not the people who are tearing the stores down, the leaders. And he's watching to see who does what, as are people like me and others, as you should. Watch who's doing something in your neighborhood. Watch your mayor, watch your city council members, watch your state representatives, watch your state senators, congressional leaders. And then exercise your right to vote, exercise your voice. Because you're seeing true colors come out, my friends. This is the moment of truth. I've never seen a night where the country burned like it did last night, where almost every major American city was on fire, being ransacked, was being desecrated. Washington, D.C. was an absolute anarchist nightmare. All of our national monuments were desecrated. Churches were burned. Ask yourself, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that you would see that in the United States on one night? Then ask yourself, why did it happen? Who let it happen? It didn't happen on its own. The greatest military power in the world, and we can't control our own cities. You ask yourself that question. Let me give you the answer. It was planned, it was orchestrated, it still is orchestrated, and it's being allowed to happen by your leaders. Not the president, your leaders, your local leaders. They're allowing anarchy. They're essentially promoting it indirectly. They won't come out and say it. And that is the sad state of affairs of this country. Now, what they're going to do, again, is they're going to come out and say, we need another $4 or $5 trillion to rebuild our American cities. We need to give another $4 or $5 trillion to the Americans. Just give it to everybody, give them a handout. No, my friends, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You burn your house down, you have to go rebuild it. You burn your city down, you have to go rebuild it. You pay for it. I'm not going to pay for it. I don't expect you and other citizens to pay for it. See, it's called responsibility. It's called taking responsibility for yourself. And that's how this country is built. We're not going to allow anarchists to take this country down into the gutter any further. Now, we're going to see some more crisis. Don't get me wrong. We're not done with this. The anarchist, the leftist, and the bad actors funding them. And let me be clear with you. If you think China's not in there, they're right in there. China's leading the pack. They want this country under their thumb. Do you think China wants to give up their manufacturing that they've taken from the U.S.? Do you think they want to give up everything that they've taken from the U.S., all the jobs, all the exports? Absolutely not. They will do everything in their power to destroy the fabric of this society. But let me ask you a question as well. Who do you think sold out to China? Who sold this country out to China? Ask yourself that question. I know the answer. I've been doing it for 30 years. I've never done one deal with the Chinese because I told them to go fuck themselves, pardon my French. I won't do a deal with the Chinese because they're the Roach Motel. The Roach Motel is when you check in and you don't check out. The Chinese do not want the American business to check out. They want all the manufacturing. They want to control the export. They want to control the U.S. currency through the fixed currency exchanges. And, they've got us locked in stock and barrel. They want to control our food supply. Folks, when you sell out consistently year in, year out for 30 years or more, you got to pay a price at some point, and we're paying the price. And it's going to be a hard fight to claw it back, to get it back. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. I'm not Donald Trump's cheerleader. Let me be clear. I think the president has issues. I think he makes mistakes. But I think he believes in the U.S. Constitution. I think he believes in American workers. I think he believes in America, exceptionalism and greatness. And so do I. Not because we're better than anybody else, but because we work and we achieve it. We're not a welfare state. I lived in Europe for 10 years. Europe is a welfare nation. Western Europe. Half the country, half of the nations and states in those countries are welfare states. They're on the dole. That's not the American way. Taxes in Europe are over 50%. That's not the American way. If you tried to put a 50% tax on Americans' income, you would have a revolt today. So you see where I'm going. We're not moving to the left, but we're being pushed in that direction very, very hard. And all I can say to you is, open your eyes. I'm not going to ask you to get complicated and understand some of the details that I understand, because the things I know and do are just way too complicated for this discussion. But all I can tell you is, this anarchy you're seeing, burning of America, burning of our cities, desecrating our monuments, our churches, destroying businesses that have been shut down for months anyway, that now cannot reopen. Do you think it's by accident? No, friends, it's not. This is a well-planned, well-orchestrated, dark globalist movement to destroy the very fabric of this society. And only you and me can make that change. You start by changing it in the 2020 elections. Look at your state representative, look at your state senators, look at your local representatives, and look at your congressional leaders. And look hard at them. Just because they have an R by their name doesn't mean that they're a constitutionalist. Just because they have an R by their name doesn't mean that they're a libertarian. Just because they have an R by their name doesn't mean that they support free enterprise. I'm going to tell you something that I don't talk about very often, and that is that the Republican Party in the United States has been massively infiltrated by liberals. Essentially, you call them rhinos, Republicans in name only. They're just liberals. They're leftists. And if you look at the Republicans we had in Congress, and you look at before the impeachment of President Trump, before the impeachment, all of the knives in his back, a majority of them were from Republicans, rhinos, liberals, with our uniforms. That's a fact. It's not my story. It's a fact. I watched it happen, and it was disgusting. It was just disgusting. So, you have to look hard in your backyard to determine who you believe is real. All I can tell you is, right now, the fight for the very fabric of our society is on. And if you don't get out there and you don't get active and you don't vote, then you, me, all of us deserve what we get. Because right now, if we lose this battle, we will become a welfare state, the country. We will become a liberal, leftist, do nothing, just a country that had basically lost its stature. We will become a ward of China and other countries who basically will continue to steal what's left of our manufacturing base because they can buy it by subsidizing their own businesses. We'll become basically waiters and waitresses for the world. Now, folks, I'm not a waiter and I'm not a waitress. I build things. I like to build things. I like to run businesses. I like to, the United States is a business. Let's be clear. Anybody that tells you it's not doesn't understand the very fabric of what we're talking about. Every state is a business. Every county in every state is a business. If you don't run it that way, you're going to go bankrupt. Now, a lot of times what you see is liberal counties, liberal states, they're bankrupt, but they want the federal government to bail them out. So what does that mean? That means people like me and you who contribute to society, who pay our taxes, who are productive individuals, are being asked to not only pay our part in our local businesses, in our local county and taxes and states, we're actually being asked to give money to other states and give money to bail out bad actors. So here's another thing I want you to take away. Get prepared, because not only are Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the bad actors coming to the table with another $3 to $5 billion of welfare demands, they're also coming to the table to ask you to bail out, on top of that, all of the bad actors in other states and other cities who are bankrupt. They were bankrupt before the coronavirus. Then they went in debt further on purpose during the coronavirus. And now they're even worse off because they've destroyed what little business they had available to them to open up and generate tax revenues. So New York City, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Portland, Oregon, Austin, Texas, Seattle, you can go on and on, Minneapolis. They're coming to us, mark my words, and going to be begging for bailouts. On top of what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are going to ask us for. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for that? The economy's on its knees. We have been brought down to our knees by the dark money globalist and internal backstabbing liberal leftists inside our government and our country. And that's where we are, folks. It's a sad state of affairs. And your ability to go out and work, to be an entrepreneur and build businesses, to those of you that do that, you're going to have to look hard at this. So with that, again, this is not about police brutality. This is not about any of that. It happened. it'll get prosecuted criminally and civilly. We have murders every day of the week. Nobody talks about the 25 or 30 shootings and murders in Chicago every single weekend. Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage for the 5 police officers that were murdered in cold blood in Dallas? You see, folks, this is all a ploy. So with that, I'm trying to give you a little bit of color because I want you to really dig deep, because it's time to take this country back. And without your help and without your involvement, we're all gone. I mean, we're going to be basically, like I said, waiters and waitresses for the world. And I'm not a waiter. I used to wait when I was in college. I paid my bills. But I worked my way through that. And I'm not about to go back and serve the rest of the world for a leftist agenda that wants to make me and you indentured, indebted, and give away our legacy, give away our net worth, give away our country, give away my children's future, give away your children's future, your grandchildren's future. I'm not willing to do it. And I hope you're not either. In any event, I hope this got through. I hope you took something away from this, and we'll talk to you more about this in the future. God bless. Have a great day. And pray for the country, because this is not over. And be safe. Thank you.